There's a couple thousand different species of mosquitoes. For Zika, the primary vector is Aedes aegypti. In the U.S., as far as the Aedes aegypti is concerned in the U.S., it's only really found in Florida and then other southern states. But it's actually getting kicked out by an invasive species, the Asian tiger mosquito, or Aedes albopictus. And has the nice white stripes on its legs. It's easily identifiable, and it's the common vector in more of the temperate areas of the U.S. As far as the mosquito, especially Aedes albopictus being a daytime biter, it really makes it a harder insect to control. Something like the malaria mosquito mostly bites at night. So you can kind of use bed nets as really effective measures to handle that. In the day, everybody's out moving around, and they're more susceptible to getting bit by Aedes albopictus. And they've grown really close and attached to humans. And they'll kind of breed in not your typical environments of many mosquitoes. Maybe it's like an old flower pot that's filled with water, or a pet bowl, a water bowl for a dog or a cat, or just old tires. Water can collect in there, and they'll be just mosquito breeding grounds. So they're really well adapted to staying close to humans and then biting us very frequently. A lot of times you get the question of what are mosquitoes actually good for. There's some evidence that they do some minor pollination. Other than that, they're largely out to kind of reproduce themselves. It's actually only the females that bite humans and other animals. The males just need some sugar from a nectar source to persist, and then they mate, and that's their whole objective. The females need the blood from some sort of organism to get enough protein in their system to produce eggs to then have offspring later. I have a feeling that it's unlikely that Zika is going to really have a nice stronghold in the U.S. and specifically Virginia, largely because the same mosquito species, the Aedes aegypti and albopictus species, also transmit dengue, which has huge issues in Brazil, and kind of a lot of travelers to these regions will contract it, and that's mostly how it enters the U.S. But it's still not spreading once here, mostly because we spend a lot of time inside, and for the mosquito actually to transmit it, they have to take up that virus with biting an infected individual, and then it'll travel from its stomach to its salivary glands before it can then bite another to transmit it, to pass it through. Now, the one issue with Aedes is that they actually are known as sip feeders, where instead of kind of taking a whole blood meal from a single host, they'll kind of sample around. It's kind of like a buffet, where instead of focusing on their favorite dish on that buffet cart, they'll kind of sample and get a little bit of everything. And a lot of basic research has already been done in this mosquito species because of the threat of dengue and yellow fever. So that's nice because a lot of plans are already in place, and now they're just kind of being expedited to help treat Zika, whether it's genetically modified mosquitoes, which do frighten some people, but also maybe if the mosquito is carrying a certain fungus or bacteria, it prevents it from either living long enough to make that second bite, or actually prevent it from picking up these viruses in the first place.